Welcome everyone to today's topic on Maven tutorial. In this we are going to talk about the Maven here. Now we will be talking about that how exactly we can make use of Maven here in performing various kind of operations, whether it's a build, compilation, various kind of stuff there. So let's talk about it, why exactly we use Maven here. Now Maven is something which is a kind of a build tool which is there for most of the Java-based projects here. So this tool also helps us in building up the source code by downloading some couple of dependencies. These dependencies are something which is being configured by the developers, which a developer feels that the project is dependent on, and he requires those dependencies to be downloaded. So this tool is specifically used to build and manage any kind of a Java-based project, whatever the complexity of the topic or the project is there. So this tool will be able to handle that particular requirement or that project. So it simplifies the day-to-day work of a Java developer and helps them in their projects for performing daily to daily activities. Right now, Maven also helps us in getting the specific jar files for each and every project. So if you are going, you can pretty much make a jar file, var file, or ER file, any kind of a package mechanism you can follow for your Maven there. So to download the dependencies, we don't have to actually go to the official website of each and every software. You can easily get it, the dependencies of each and every third-party binaries on the mavenrepository.com. This is a website which is present, on which if you visit, you will be able to download the dependencies which is required by your project or by your specific project over here. So it totally depends on how exactly you want to download and you want to get together a specific repository over here. So mavenrepository.com is the one. If you visit, you will be able to download and go through all the jar files, dependent jar files as in dependencies which you require for your current project. Right, so now what exactly is a Maven all about? So let's see on that part. So Maven is a popular open source build tool which is developed by the Apache group, and the primary ownership of this tool is to build, publish, and deploy several projects at once. Maven is written in Java, and it can be used to build projects written in C#, Scala, Ruby, etc. So apart from Java, these are the different programming languages or the tools which is supported by the Maven here for performing the build activity. So the tool is used for build and management of any kind of a Java-based project. It simplifies the day-to-day work of a Java developer and helps them to automate most of the compilation or build perspective tasks on the projects. Right. Now Maven is a kind of a BOM-based project, so it also known as an project object model, and it focuses on simplification and standardization of the building process. In the process, it takes care of all the followings here: builds, dependencies, reports, distribution, releases, mailing list. So all these things are being taken care as in this particular process here, and ultimately it's an availability inside the Maven that how the overall build process needs to be automated and standardized here. So all these particular mechanisms can be followed as such over here, so that we can have a good standards and the simplifications implemented as such here. Now what exactly is a Maven repository all about? So Maven repository is something which is kind of a directory, or it's kind of a location where we have all the jar files packaged all together in a single location. So depending on the software which you want to download, the dependent jar files can be downloaded from there. So the metadata refers to the POM files relevant to each project here. This metadata is what allows Maven to download the dependencies. Now there are three types of repositories from where we can download the dependencies. The first one is the local repository, second one is the remote repository, and the third one is the central repository. So these are the primary three types of repositories which is available there for a specific Maven over here. So whatever repository you want to follow, you want to access, you can pretty much access it and you can go with that. Right now, the local repository will be primarily present onto your PC. That's the way that how it's present there. And the particular remote repository is something which you can store on any remote machine or remote server. And the central repository is something which you can have it onto the internet. So usually the central repositories is something in which we can actually host our different kind of dependencies and the jar files over there. So local repository on the machine of the developer where the project material is saved. So all the particular dependencies jar file will be available on your local machine. Remote machine is the location where you can actually store all your particular dependencies, from where you can download these dependencies whenever you require it. So this repositories work similar to the central repository. Whenever anything is needed from the remote repository, it's first downloaded into your local repository and then it will be utilized. So if you feel that the dependency is something which is not there in the local, it will be first downloaded from the remote repository and then it will be utilized or will be referenced onto the local machine there. And central repository is refers to the Maven community repository there, where you will be able to see each and every dependency present on that repository. So Maven downloads the repositories from here in the local repository whenever they're needed or whenever required. All these dependencies are cached locally, from where it will be referenced in the next, or whenever we want to refer that, we will be able to do that particular reference easily on that part. So this is the way that how the three particular repositories or Maven repositories really helps us for performing various kind of automations as such here. Right, now what are the basic concepts of Maven here? So some of the couple of basic concepts which is present in Maven is, like, for the first time we have the project object model. So project POM refers to the XML file which has all the information regarding the project, how this particular project should be built up, how the different build process should be automated there. It also has a description of the project, details regarding the versioning information is also stored as such in this XML file, in this particular POM reference file as such over here. The XML file is which is there in the project home directory. So Maven is something which search for the POM file in the current directory. If it's able to find that particular POM file, so it will execute or it will proceed with the build step, otherwise it will halt there itself. So this POM file is very important because it will act as a kind of a build script, and primarily the Maven tool will be able to process each and everything which is configured as such in this specific XML file there, and according to that only it will function or it will proceed further. Right, now second thing is the dependencies and repositories. So dependencies usually refers to the jar files, so the Java libraries which we need in into our particular project. So while working on the project, we may be having the dependency on couple of dependencies. So these dependencies we have to actually download or we have to actually refer, and once these particular information or these details are referred, so what will happen that we need to download these specific dependencies from the particular Maven repositories. So if the dependencies are not present in your local repository, then Maven will try to download it from the central repository and cache it into your local repository. But first of all, it will look on into the local repository, and if it is not present in local, then only it will go to the remote or the central repository. Then we have build life cycles and phase and goals there. So build life cycles consists of the sequence of build phases, and each build phase consists of sequence of goals here. Now each goal is responsible for performing a specific task. When a phase is running all the goals related to that phase, and its plugins are also used to performing the compilation, preparing the artifacts, downloading the dependencies, all different things being done by the plugins here. Then we have the build profiles. So build profiles refers to a set of configuration values. Now generally we have the generic build process for all the environments or all the particular code base there, but sometimes we do have some kind of a differences there. So that is where we can go for the profiles, because a specific profile can have its own configuration, and whatever it's required for the build process, we can have different configurations stored inside the Maven build script here. Then different build profiles are added to the POM files, and which enables the different build as such here. So depending on these profiles, we can actually decide that how we need to proceed with the build process and how the different kind of build automations needs to be performed here. Then a build profile helps in customizing the build for the different environments, so that also we can perform as such while performing or while working on the different components and the different management here. So a build profile is something which you can configure, you can utilize, and depending on that build profile, we will be deciding whether to proceed further or how to decide on that particular factor. So these are something which we need to take care, or we need to work according to which we can decide that how the specific configurations and specific automation needs to be performed here. Now Usually when we go for the Maven there, so we have to use some couple of Maven plugins. Now the goal of using these specific plugins is to automate some of the basic stuff like compilation, creating the var file, creating the jar file. So when we are using the plugins, we don't have to configure the steps or write the steps that how these specific plugins should be installed or should be referenced. It's ultimately the internal configurations which we are looking forward or which we are using while working on these specific plugins. So you can download some couple of plugins using which we will be able to decide that how a specific goals needs to be achieved here. So Maven has its own standard plugins that can be utilized. So if want to go for a custom one, so you can do that, but pretty much you can go for the default one, and you can pretty much have some specific goals executed with the help of these build plugins. Now, next thing is the Maven architecture. So in Maven, what happens that let's talk about the basic architecture of Maven here. So the Maven executable, when it's deployed, so it usually reads the pom.xml file, which is the build script here. Now, once the specific pom.xml file is being read out, so it will process the components. It will download, or it will process the dependencies, plugins, life cycles, phases and goals, and even the build profiles. And if any kind of interaction is required, so it will try to connect to the central repository or a remote repository, and according to that it will provide the information and provide the details as such. So Maven repository is something which is very important because it's ultimately trying to connect to the Maven repository and try to achieve the various kind of automation here. So it's very important because ultimately it's trying to help us to go for the complete end-to-end build automation when we'll go for a specific POM based build automation. So Maven executable will read the pom.xml file, then download the dependencies defined into the pom.xml file, and that dependencies are cached locally from the remote or the central repository. Now then create and generate a remote report according to the requirement and execute the life cycles, phases, goals, plugins, etc. So it will process the pom.xml file there, and whatever the plugins and goals or the life cycles which is configured there, step by step each of them will be executed into a sequence here. Now let's talk about the overall build lifecycle of the Maven here. So what happens that the Maven build lifecycle is something which is a kind of a collection of different steps there, and this is something which is followed to perform a build automation for a specific project. So that there are pretty much 3 steps which is being done. So first one is the default, so it handles the project deployment there. Second, handles the project cleaning, which is a clean there, and then we have site, so it handles the creation of the project sites documentation there. So these are the 3 built-in particular life cycles which is available there at the Maven level, which you can utilize to perform a various kind of particular steps execution for your project. Right, so the build cycle has the different build phases or stages there, because when we are performing a build, a variety of things needs to be performed over here. So the first one is the compile, then test compile is there. So compilation is there for the source file, and test compile is there for the test cases. Test will execute the test cases, package will package the bundle, then we have the integration test to run the integration test cases, then we have the verify, then install goal is there, and the last one is the deploy, which is there to deploy the artifacts to the artifact tree. So all these things are the different phases and the stages which is being followed as per a specific build here. So during these builds, these are the different phases and the stages which we normally follow for performing the build automation. Now what is the exactly advantage of a specific Maven here? So that is something which we need to talk about, that how the particular automation needs to be done, or how we can actually go for the configurations where we feel that yes, we want to perform or we want to take certain benefits out of the implementation of Maven here. So for that, what happens that we have to see that the various kind of benefits. The first one is that Apache Maven helps manage all the processes there, such as building, documentation, releasing, and distribution in project management here. So the tool simplifies the process of project building. It increases the performance of the project and the building process altogether. And the task of downloading jar files and other dependencies is also done automatically. We don't have to indulge in any kind of download part as such manually over here. right? And Maven provides easy access to all the required information. So Maven makes it easy for a specific developer to build a project in the different environments. So we don't have to worry about the environment, we don't have to worry about the infrastructure, nothing is required. Everything is available there inside this package. And depending on the particular, you can write the source code on one machine and you can pretty much do the build on another machine. And this is the reason how the build automation really happens on the first place, because the developer is writing the source code in one location and the same code is deployed onto the particular, or built onto this Jenkins or any kind of build tool there, right? In Maven you can easily add new dependencies, so you must write the particular dependencies in the POM file. So if you feel that you want to download some particular dependencies, so all you have to do is that you have to put that dependency into the specific pom.xml file there, and depending on that the execution will be really performed and executed as such here, right? So let's talk about the demo now. So let's see that how exactly we can go for this demo and we can perform the various kind of automations. So this is the virtual machine which we have here, on which the Maven is already installed. So we can run like mvn. So Maven will be available as in 3.6.3 here. Now I'm going to run a particular command called mvn archetype generate here. Let me create a directory here, a temp directory, and to perform this activity over there. So mvn archetype generate. Now once we run that, so what will happen, that it will download some of the binaries there, because ultimately what we are trying to do is that we are trying to generate a new project, like a Maven project. So a couple of particular plugins will be downloaded by the Maven executable so that it can achieve that particular execution. So we just have to wait for downloading all these values. Now here it's trying to give us a particular attributes, like it's asking the different attributes over here. So what exactly we want to configure. So if you want to configure, you can provide that details, otherwise you can perform or whatever the setup you want to perform. Now here it's asking for the version, so which kind of version we want to follow. So I'm going to follow like 5 here, so I'll press 5. Then a group ID which is there, so it's basically a kind of a group mechanism, so I can say like com.Simplilearn. So that's a value which I'm providing here. Artifact ID, I can make it like a sample project or something like that. I can do, so that will be the artifact ID which is there. So version I am keeping the same only. So and yeah, so package same here. So I just want to create, so I'll just provide the value called yes and enter. So with this, what will happen, that a sample project will be created here, right? So whatever the artifact ID you provided, so according to that the project is created in this directory. So you have to go into this directory and see that what exactly the files are created there. So you have the pom.xml file. Now this pom.xml file, when I open, so you can see here that there are some attributes, like you can have the values related to what version or group ID you want to follow. So this is the group ID, this is the artifact ID. So this is jar file. By default you can change it according to your requirement. Then this is the version, and if you feel that you want to do the changes to the name, that also you can perform here. So by default the JUnit dependency is added, but if you want to keep on adding your own custom dependencies, you will be able to do that. Now in this case, if you run like mvn clean install, so it will be considered as a particular Maven project. A pom.xml file is already there present in the local directory. So according to that, the execution of the steps will be performed, and according to that you will be able to get some desired values here. So ultimately in the target directory you will be able to see that some couple of jar file or a specific jar file is generated here. So you can see that in the target directory this jar file or this artifact is generated here. So this is a way that how we can actually go for a generic one, like a new particular project, and later on you can, depending on your understanding, you can keep on adding or you can keep on modifying the dependencies, and that's how you can get the final result there. So that's it for this demo, in which we have find out that how exactly we can go for a particular project preparation with the help of mvn executable. So that's it for this demo. Thanks. Right, so that was the demo in which we saw that how exactly we can go for the Maven, and we can execute some build process related to Maven there. Right, so that's it for this specific topic. Thanks.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.